So let us begin now with our school USD 305 school board candidates. And again, like with the city commission, the order of speaking was determined by a draw of the number. We will have more questions for the school board candidates because, as you can see, we only have 4 up here as opposed to 6. So that'll give us an opportunity to ask a few more questions. But like the city commission, we'll begin with 2-minute opening statements, and by the lot, Gabe Grant has the first 2-minute opening statement. Gabe. Oh, and please stand for your opening statement, and then you can remain seated for the rest.
Good evening. Thanks for being here tonight, and thank you, Clark, for hosting, and to you all for planning this. This is great to be able to talk. My name is Gabe Grant. I was born and raised in Salina, 2009 graduate of Salina Central High School. Attended K-State and moved back to Salina in 2013 and got into residential real estate with my mom as a business partner and opened our own brokerage downtown here just a few years ago. So small business owner in downtown Salina. I was raised with kind of the mentality that you give back to the community that you live in. I love living in Salina, and one of the reasons why I moved back and enjoy giving back to the community in many different ways, school board being one of them. I ran in 2017 and was elected then to a seat on the USD 305 Board of Education in a little bit of a tumultuous time, what I thought then was a tumultuous time. We were going through a superintendent change and just some uneasiness with the district. Was elected then, got through our superintendent change, have gotten through forming a new strategic plan with a great group of board members, and then COVID hit and we haven't really been able to execute on it. So would enjoy receiving your vote in the upcoming election. We still have more work to do, and thank you.
Jim Fletcher.
All right, good evening, and thank you for hosting this event and for coming out tonight. My name's Jim Fletcher. I've spent most of my life here in Salina. I'm a 1993 graduate of Salina South High, also attended Salina Area Tech and Kansas Wesleyan right here in town. I've spent the last 30 or so years working in the private sector, in the public sector for the sheriff's office, and as a business owner. I've got 4 children. 2 of them graduated from USD 305. I've got 2 of them who are finishing up in the next few years there. And I want to be a school board member to give back to the community that's given so much to me through the years. I've long believed that schools are the first community, one of the first communities people identify themselves with. A place where they can learn the basics of reading, writing, arithmetics, but also they build their foundations for the future moving forward. There have been a lot of changes in education and in USD 305. I think back to when I was a kid going to our neighborhood school, Whittier Elementary, and going home and just playing in the evenings in our neighborhood. I was raised by a single hardworking mother, and together we learned to get through adversity and to prosper together. We learned to be happy with some of the simplest things in life, like going to Lamer's Market, if you ever got to go there, and having a conversation with Howard and Judy. I was able to attend Salina Tech as a junior and a senior in high school, where I learned the importance of self-confidence and of mastering a trade. I also learned to work hard and to work through challenges. After graduating from Salina South High and Salina Tech on the same day, I went to work, and I've been gainfully employed ever since. My goal is that the students graduating from USD 305 will be just as proud in 30 years as I am today.
Holly Hennick.
For coming. Thanks, Grannies, for hosting this for all of us. My name's Holly Hinnick. I am from Sterling originally, which the school district there is actually nationally ranked, where I feel that we can bring a lot of that into USD 305. I am married. I have 3 children, 2 of which are in the school district now, 1 that will be in a couple of years. Good luck. Nonetheless, I am running for school board for a marked change. We are here to support teachers and advocate for students and involve our parents in the educational process. I feel for the last several years there's been a lack of involvement for parents in the school district, and we're calling for a marked change. We've got to start supporting our teachers. I'm excited to be here. I'm happy to be a write-in candidate. So my card is floating around. You can actually take that into the booth with you. It's legal to do that if you need to spell my name correctly. So grab one of those if you're interested. I would just like to thank you all for having me, and I can't wait to the discussion to ensue. Thank you.
Bonnie Schamberger.
My name is Bonnie Schamberger, and I'd like to thank the Granny Brigade for hosting this and putting this together. I have been a teacher most of my life. I even taught a couple of years. I taught band here in Salina in the 70s. But no, I'm not going to tell you how old I am. So I have taught band in lots of different sizes of schools. I homeschooled our two boys. After they went back into high school, I started teaching part-time, and I moved here to Salina 7 years ago. And during that time, I have subbed in the district as well as area schools. I am running for school board because I feel like I have some understanding about the classroom setting, how children learn, how they need to feel safe and loved in order to get the benefits of learning, as well as knowing how to be good citizens and respect each other. I feel that our children's minds, as well as the children themselves, are America's greatest resource. They are our future. They are who we are going to be depending on later on. It is a great responsibility for school boards to maintain a high standard of education as well as citizenship. That is why I'm running for school board, because I believe I can be effective in this school district of 305.
Now we'll begin the question portion of our forum, and Jim Fletcher, you'll answer the first question, and we will rotate the order of response just like we did for the city commission candidates. So your first question is going to be similar to the first question posed to the city commission candidates tonight. As things stand now, citizens can attend school board meetings and, if they choose, address the board for up to 3 minutes. However, this has to be a monologue on the part of the citizens. Would you be in favor of changing this to give citizens an opportunity to dialogue with the board and the superintendent? And when they would ask a question, there would be an expectation of a reply. Of course, proper decorum would need to be maintained at all times. Under this proposal, the 3-minute time limit would remain in effect, so if a citizen used 30 seconds of his or her time to ask a question, at least one board member or the superintendent would have to reply. Once the 3 minutes was up, the board chair would move on to the next member of the public wishing to speak to or with the board. Do you think this is a good idea or a bad idea?
Okay, I do think that it's important that the community has dialogue with the school board members, with the superintendent, with the school administrators, with anyone in the school. However, the formality of the board meeting, I don't know is the place for that. The reason being, a board member speaks for themselves when they're independent. When they're at the board speaks based on a vote that's put forward by the board. It's not a time for individual board members to have debate with individuals in the community. I think we lose a lot of the composure. I guess I think to myself, if I had questions at church, I wouldn't just start asking my questions there. I would find the appropriate time and place to do that.
Holly Hennick.
Yeah, so that's part of the transparency I'd like to bring to the board. I think there's a way to go about it. I think there may be a need for an additional session for that to happen with, but I think it's very important for the parents to be heard and for the board to have that discussion. With the Kansas Open Meetings Act, I know that they can't meet all together to discuss board things without it being open. Well, it should be open to the public. It needs to be open to our parents. It needs to be open to our teachers. So I do think it's absolutely necessary to bring down some of those barriers so that we can get some of the issues solved within the school board, and I think this is absolutely a great way to go about it. It's going to get our voices out there.
Bonnie Schamberger.
I've been to school boards meetings, And they do have the public forum where the public can state their issues or state the problems and things. But I really feel that the people that have spoken in the school board meetings that I've attended, I'm not sure if they really understood that they were heard or they had a voice to with the issues that they were discussing. So I believe that there would definitely needs to be this back and forth, not arguing, but just clarity of bringing understanding so the people will know that they are being heard, that they are being understood, and these problems will be addressed, or at least some issues, some answers for what's going on. Thank you.
Gabe Grant.
I agree with a few of the comments I heard at the City Commission meeting and with Mr. Fletcher in that when I speak as one board member. When I make a vote along with 7 others, or 6 others, we speak as the board. I think it would be hard in that forum to get a response from the board or from individual board members. I think that would be a tough dynamic to work out. I'd be open to trying anything, can only try. I think in 2019, we staged several listening sessions with both members of the community, staff, students in our strategic planning initiative that were well attended. There were plans to do more of that, but the pandemic put a little bit of a hold on that. And I think more casual sort of settings for conversations and dialogue with community members and board members and district leadership team would be a positive thing for the community.
New question. We'll begin this time with Holly. On the USD 305 website, there is information about the Equity Council. What is your understanding of what the Equity Council does, and do you support the mission of the Equity Council? Holly Hennick.
I think there's great beauty in learning about each other's heritage and religion and what we hold true to ourselves. I think there's an insane disservice when it goes to shaming one another based on where they're from or who they identify as. I know there's a big issue with the equity and where CRT is in the curriculum. Well, CRT is not in the curriculum. It's not in the state curriculum, but I assure you it is in Saline County 305 school district curriculum. The staff are actually, reading books in the morning by an author called Jane Elliott. I encourage you to look her up. She is one of the most controversial and unethical psychological experiments that she did with her 3rd grade class. It's unnerving, and I think you guys need to be aware of what's going on.
Bonnie Schamberger.
Website of the Equity Council, and it looks good. It has the equity and diversity of students, and but it would probably, I would keep a look on that, an eyesight on that, because we don't know what direction it might take. It sounds good. There are a lot of representatives on there. They do have a scribe that takes the minutes of all of their meetings, and then they bring that, the issues or the solutions to the issues to the school board to review. So it's something that is definitely, as a school board member, I'd keep an eye on, and to read all the minutes that's going on in the Equity Council. Thank you.
Gabe Grant.
I think as an organization, it's important for us to do a little internal looking to make sure that we are fostering a sense of community and belongingness. As we went through that strategic planning season through 2019 and into 2020, we exited that with a mission statement for Salina Public Schools to be the best place to learn and work by embracing challenges, creating belonging, fostering pride, and inspiring hope. And I think that's the sense of the atmosphere that we think creates the best learning environment for students, and one that we want to do everything we can to create in Salina Public Schools. and one that I think our community also demands.
Jim Fletcher.
You know, I'm a business guy at this point, so I do a lot of reading, and the thing that comes to mind when I think through this and the Equity Council and some of the work that, I say work, some of the pieces they've gone through makes me reflect back to Stephen Covey. And one of his 7 principles is seek first to understand and then to be understood. And I think that's one of the pieces that I pull from that is seeking to understand other people, seeking to understand other backgrounds, and then you can have communication and those things from that point forward.
New question. We'll begin with Bonnie Schamberger this time. Do you support or oppose current USD 305 policy that requires students and staff to wear masks? And a related question, would you be in favor or opposed to giving parents an option if their student will have to wear a mask? Bonnie Schamberger.
Okay. That's the big question, isn't it? I personally think the verdict on the effectiveness of masks it's still out there, depending on what sources you're reading. I've done some research and talked to schools in the area. They are not mandating masks. They are taking precautions so that the kids will not, there won't be an outbreak, but they're not mandating masks. The county is not mandating masks. Our children are having to wear masks 7 hours a day, 5 days a week. I looked at the Hayes website on their masks, and they recommend masks. They are not mandating masks. They are taking precautions. They have testing centers. There are options that we could do without having the, is that
Thank
it?
you, Bonnie.
Okay.
Gabe Grant.
It's very public, the decision I made on this issue. You can look back at meeting minutes and recognize that I voted in favor of our students wearing masks in our buildings, students and staff. I said at the Republican Women's Forum that I attended a week or so ago, I did not get pandemic training when I started on the school board. We, from the start, have made one of our goals as we've made decisions, what's the best way that we can keep kids in school? When we heard from business leaders at the start of the pandemic, they said the best thing for families was stability in process and arrangement on their student schedule, and that trickled down to their family's work schedule. Based on policies from Salina County Health that were out of our control, the obvious answer to us, to me as a board member for keeping kids in school, was universal masking. Do I think that is fostering the absolute best learning environment? No, but I think kids being in buildings is the best.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. Jim Fletcher.
Okay, so this is not necessarily an easy one for me because I did not vote for that motion. However, it takes us to the next step of leadership. Sometimes when you're on a board, you can't agree with everything, but you've got to continue to move forward together. As the president of the board, it's my job to move us forward as a board and get through the next processes. And hopefully soon we can move past this and we're talking about education with kids again. That'd be my goal.
Holly Hennick.
Clark, can I stand up? Yes. Sorry, I like to stand when I talk. Okay, well, we all know where I stand on this masking thing. I've been getting lots of hate mail and what have you from a particular body of people here. Parents should always have a choice, period. I don't think you understand the educational deficit you're placing across the kids' face. I've been volunteering in the kindergarten class every week for the last 6 weeks we've been in school, and these kids can't even hardly read yet. They can't go p or f, and they're so frustrated in class. We're having angry outbursts all the time. I've helped USD 376, I've helped Southeast of Salina, I've helped Sacred Heart, multiple other schools implement other things besides masking to keep their kids in school, and guess what? Their per capita quarantine rate is lower than what ours is, and our kids are masked. I'm not going to debate science up here, but you should have a choice as a parent, period. No, I don't stand for masking.
Please hold your applause until the end of the forum. Now, I'm serious about that. Please hold your applause. We'll have a chance to show our gratitude for these candidates being here at the end. And in deference to the other candidates, if you wish to stand when you speak, have at it. Gabe, it's back to you to go first. Should USD 305 required COVID vaccinations along with booster shots when and if they become available to attend or work at USD 305 public schools? Gabe Grant.
I don't think it's legal for us to mandate that. Those sorts of vaccine and health requirements for students entering kindergarten come from KDHE and KSDE. Don't think it would be a winning position for us in a legal avenue to vote that in, and would just be sacrificing taxpayer dollars for a fight that we're not going to win. I don't think it would be the right thing to do.
Jim Fletcher.
I would not be supportive of requirement of COVID vaccines to work or attend. I think there's a lot of alternatives out there. I think it's a personal choice that each individual needs to make, and I wouldn't see a value in chasing that from an organizational standpoint. I think it's something individuals need to educate themselves about and make the right decision for them and their family.
Holly Hennick.
Thanks, Clark. Okay, we all know where I stand on that as well. Here's the thing. We can't make that decision, but the state can. And as a board, you should probably be talking to your state legislators on what we can do to protect our teachers who are leaving in droves. And so I've been talking to Attorney General Derek Schmidt and his head advisor, as well as some of the other ones, Tracy May and some of the other ones. They are working so hard to protect our funding. What's going to come is that they're going to say, you don't have to get the vaccine, teachers. You don't have to get the vaccine, students, but we're pulling your funding if you don't get the vaccine. So as a board, you need to get up to the state. You need to get talking. That's what we're working on now. They're in recess, so we'll have to find out where it goes, but it's coming, and it's coming January 1st.
Bonnie Schamberger.
I am not in favor of mandate masks or vaccines. For one thing, mandating says, quote, I have the authority to know what is best for your child, so you need to comply or else. That is not freedom. We live in a country that has free choice. I know it's coming, what Holly's doing, going to the legislature. We need to stand up for our freedoms, for our children, for our families, and we need to take a stand against any kind of mandates, because if they go with the mask, then they'll go with the vaccines, and they will come along with other things, because they say we got to abide with that, we will put more mandates on the people. So it's time to stand up, have your voice known, know what the Constitution says, know what your freedoms are, and stand on that.
Again, please. I mean, I'm only going to ask so many times, seriously. And if I catch you clapping before the end, I am going to ask you to leave. So please. All right, it's time to begin with Jim. What safeguards should be put in place for teachers wishing to inform the school board about issues concerning school policies and curriculum? Jim Fletcher.
I think that comes from an individual board member level. I think that, I'm a huge fan of communication. I'm a huge fan of let's sit down and have a talk. I'd welcome anybody to sit down and have that conversation. And I think it comes down to the credibility of the board member and how that's handled as well. It takes effective communication. It takes someone who teachers can trust. It takes someone who can share that message in a way where it can be received and heard in the organization to make things move forward.
Holly Hennick.
Thanks, Clark. This, besides masking my children, this is probably the most sad thing that has been brought to my attention during this process. And actually an LLC group got developed called Parents in Education, and it's a safe space for the teachers to come to talk about their issues, and then those issues are then brought to the board, kind of like a barrier. No one's going to know. But unfortunately, I think that it does come down to an individual board member level. I don't understand, and maybe this is happening. I'm still learning the rules of the board. Why are we not talking to each of our teachers every year? There's enough board members that we should be able to sit and meet with every single parent, every single teacher to see how we can support them further in their class so that they can be more successful. And we've got to break those barriers down, and I think that comes from the administrative side.
Bonnie Schamberger.
We should have open communication with the board as the teachers, the parents, the community. I recently heard of hostility in our school systems. I'm not sure whether it's parents to teachers, teachers to kids, vice versa. I don't know, administration, but there's some fear going on here in our schools. And as a school board member, we need to be able to be open to hear and listen and to problem solve this, because if we want to retain our teachers, we don't need hostility or fear, and the kids pick up on that kind of an atmosphere. But I know the parents group has been started as an advocate, so they can feel safe to come and talk to the board members or to their administration. It is something that we need to deal with. Thank you.
Gabe Grant.
I don't know what protections there already are in law or necessarily that we have mirrored in board policy, but I think teachers have reached out to me throughout our my 3-year and 8-month time on the board. I've always sought to understand those issues or questions that they have. I've never once gone to a board meeting or a district leadership team member and said, this person brought me this issue and turned it in. Those have been, those issues that have been brought to me, I've handled in a way that protects the confidentiality of the person providing the issue, but also in a way that we can dig through what their underlying issue is and seek to have some sort of resolve or action. Many of those times that staff members have reached out to me, they've resulted in board action or a district change in how things have happened. And I think processes like that are appropriate.
New question. We'll begin this time with Holly. What policies would you favor to retain current teachers and attract more job candidates when there are openings? Holly Hennick.
Loaded question. I think the bigger question is, why are we not in the top 10% of the school districts in the state of Kansas? Educationally, there is no reason for that. I think that retaining good teachers is kind of a cycle of having a highly functional, highly performing school district. And if you looked up Salina, you would be very sad. So we need to start kind of at the bottom, I think, and kind of work our way from both sides to see what the real issue is. There are several things that are in line. We have you get Kansas West Lane here. We've got Sterling College. We've got Lindsborg around to try to get these teachers to stay. But this is the thing. They come in, they student teach, they see what's going on, and they're gone. There's a problem there. We need to fix it. There's no reason why we should not be in the top 10% of school districts in Kansas.
Bonnie Schamberger.
Not having the conformity of having teachers stay is a problem with the education system as far as the children, that they know that it's a safe place. Just looking as a sub, the teachers are stressed. They have a lot to do. They are doing committees. They're doing this, they're that. They have to stay on the same page with all. If there's 4 first grade classes, they all have to stay on the same page, no matter where their kids are really at as academically. And I've talked to a lot of teachers, and most of them are just saying we're just stressed. We need more time with the kids. We need to get to know our children. We need to know where the background, so that we can be more effective teachers to those students. We know where they're coming from, where their parents are, and get that communication going. But the teachers are saying they don't have enough time to do that. So we need to look at that issue. Thank you.
Gabe Grant.
As we went through that strategic planning season through 2018 and 2019 and the beginning of 2020, that in what we heard from the community and the action that we took as a board, to tell you how important of an issue we thought this was, I'll read that mission again. The mission of Salina Public Schools is to be the best place to learn and work by embracing challenges, creating belonging, fostering pride, and inspiring hope. And those four tags at the end go both for our students being in an environment they're able to learn, also in an environment for our staff that they're able to effectively teach our students. I think partnerships with higher education do a great job to bring college graduates into our district. I think there's always ways that we can increase those that culture and the atmosphere that those teachers work in. And that's just as important as pay, in my opinion, which probably isn't where it needs to be as well, but we don't have a ton of control over that. Talk to Clark.
I'm right here. Jim Fletcher.
Okay, there's turnover with teachers pretty much everywhere you go in the state. I've traveled, I get to talk to a lot of the board members from other areas of the states. Anytime you have an organization with 1,400 employees, not every employee is going to be 100% happy with everything that's going on in the organization. But I can tell you in the last 4 years I've been on the board, we've really worked hard to try to improve those relationships. We've worked hard to try to make it a good place to work for teachers who can now have their students attend the school that they teach at, which relieves a lot of stress for them. These are some things that they've been asking for many years, and we try to do that. I would also say that being on the negotiations committee, a majority of our teachers are in the Masters Plus group. So what that means is a majority of our teachers have been with us between 10 and 15 years, and they've gained their master's level. We have very few teachers who are new teachers at the bachelor's level. So we are retaining a lot of those teachers who've been here a long time and want to be part of Salina and USD 305.
Have you had a chance on this one yet? I don't. You started. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. I got a little bit lost there. I'm sorry. All right, so that means, Bonnie, we'll start with you this time. Should passing a civics test sometime during high school be required to graduate?
I love being first. Passing a civics test be required. I believe that, yes, I do. We need to know about our civilizations, our governments, our history of our country, where we came from, why we're here, our foundations of why the covenants that the Pilgrims made. We need to know these things. We need to have pride in our country, pride in no matter what color we are proud of each other. The civics, our country is being divided right now, and I believe if we go back to the beginning, find out what our history is about, what God was, our government was, our country is built on two books, the Bible and the Constitution. We need to know what those say. We've gotten away from that. We know what our country's, the condition of our country, our schools, and so, yes.
Thank you, Bonnie. Gabe Grant.
I would be a proponent and look at any proposal that would increase the learning outcomes of our students. I think civics and citizenship, the need to focus on teaching American history, as we look for our community to grow, talking with business leaders who, by chamber estimates, between 500 and 1,000 jobs that Salina could hire tomorrow if we had the people for them. When those people are looking for places to move, they're looking for a vibrant community to be a part of. Just as important in talking with those business leaders, they're looking for soft skills for them, for their employees, teaching that critical thinking, empathy, communication skills. You may notice that those are the same words that appear in our mission statement as we look to what our community wants from Salina Public School graduates and what our community needs from them. We have the groundwork laid to align those, and it's ready to be executed on.
Jim Fletcher.
I would be supportive of that. It's great to see so many people here tonight. Honestly, it's great to see people come into our school board meetings in the last few months. I think we've gone through a phase where maybe we've had a little bit of disengagement, and now people are getting engaged. I think what goes along with that is learning the process that's there. I'd encourage everybody to run for office. Come up here, sit down, grab a mic, and give your thoughts. Because let me tell you, it's hard to go home after that because you're thinking about everything you said. But when you truly believe it, I think it's important. And, I've got several family members who were veterans. My dad was a POW MIA in Vietnam, and there was a lot that was given up so that we can have what we've got today. And I would be supportive of anything to educate everyone about that.
Holly Hennick.
Thank you, Clark. Yes, absolutely. Civics is the study of rights and duties as a civilian of the United States. I agree with Fletcher. Guilty as well. I was complacent. I'm 31 and I'm just now getting into, voting and that kind of thing. And there's a whole generation that missed that. There was not a civics class. I didn't have one. Government was one semester when I was in high school, unfortunately. And so I do think there's a big disengagement there, but we're awake now and we're ready. But absolutely, I do think that a civics course or having to pass a civics test would be wildly appropriate for high school students.
New question will begin with Gabe Grant. What are your feelings about in-person education versus online? Gabe Grant.
In-person wins hands down. Again, as we've made decisions over the past 18 months as a board, as I've looked at proposals and tried to use my judgment to decide what was best for the 7,000 students as a whole of USD 305 in our community, and what effect that had on their families. Keeping kids in school in front of a teacher was my first priority as I made decisions about which policies and proposals I would support. I have made several decisions over the past 18 months that, looking back in hindsight, if we had more information or a few months later, it would have been a different decision. But every decision I've made has been with that focus of keeping kids in front of a teacher in a classroom.
Jim Fletcher.
I think that kids being in person, in the classroom with a teacher is the best from my perspective. The other thing I would say is I think it's a family choice at times. That's one of the reasons why USD 305 put a virtual school in. Whether we like it or not, we had a lot of students from our community who were attending virtual schools from other communities. Now that option is there for them to be connected within our community. But if we can have them in the classroom, and if that's the best thing for the family, then that's what we need to provide as a school district.
Holly Hennick.
Thank you, Clark. Yes, absolutely. That being said, I think that, again, parents have a choice. Some children have different disabilities that need to be home. This is not a mask debate or a quarantine debate to where virtual school is the best that they can do for them. That's fantastic. Let's make our teachers accessible. Well, state teachers accessible. But if we can keep our children in front of teachers, that's going to be the best thing that we can do. Now, I don't want to turn this into a mask, not mass exposure quarantine. This is why we wear masks, because otherwise your kids is at home. There are ways around that quarantine. We just have to work together to be able to get there. USD 305 has taken great steps to try. We'll see if any of that can actually work out, not on behalf of 305, just on behalf of how things are going governmentally, but we're making changes.
Bonnie Schamberger.
I agree that in school, Education is the best. But I'm glad that 305 does have a virtual school for those that works best for them. As far as the in-school education, is so important for them to have that eye contact, that facial, when the masks aren't there, and they have the encouragement that they need to for the in-school. And they have questions, they stay on track, and I just know that in school is better. Thank you.
You still had a little time left, but okay. All right, next question. It's time to begin with Jim Fletcher. So, Jim, do you feel that it's equally important for our high schools to prepare our students for college and or some other kind of secondary education, such as vocational tech or such as going into the military, or is it more important to prepare the kids for college?
So that I understand what you're asking, are you saying should they be prepared for college or tech school? Either or?
Are they equally important?
Are they equally important? Okay. Yes, I would say equally important. I think the biggest thing is that students are prepared to go out and be productive members of society once they've left the school, that they've received some of the social basics, that they've received the ability to function in society, reading, writing, arithmetic. I think that that's different for every person, and I think that each person should be able to pursue their happiness based on their personal desire, and that the school system should be there to support them with that. I know people who have been very successful in life and never went to college, never went to tech school. I know folks who've gone to tech school and been very successful, and I think that that's a personal, I think at the end of the day, it's a personal thing for them to decide what their next step is, and the school district has to be there to support them through that.
Holly Hennick.
Thank you, Clark. I think we prepare the child for the road that they want to go down. It's not an all one-size-fits-all for sure. There are some children who have the aptitude to go to med school and to do that thing. There are some kids that really want to be welders and they want to work with their hands. And I think we have to, as educators, as teachers, as parents, as friends of our children, be able to bring that kind of thing out of the child so that we can make them happy in what they choose to do with their life. So whatever that may be, that goes to the school counselors, making sure they have enough time, making sure those bonds are made with the teachers that they can bring those qualities out in that child and help them with the decision that they want to make for the rest of their lives.
Bonnie Schamberger.
I agree with what Holly said, because each child is different. Some of them have the talents and abilities to go, like to be a doctor or to be a plumber. There's different kinds of learners. There's hands-on learners. There's visual learners. There are paper learners. And teachers have to know how that child learns in order to be effective for them to be successful when they graduate. But we just need to prepare them for, and know, like the counselors would be beneficial, to find out where their giftings are, where their interests are, and promote that. A lot of schools used to have a lot of foreign exchange students where I taught in Natoma, and they do that in other countries. If they have an interest in a certain area, they start even as a junior or before that in that field that they're interested in, and so they are not wasting time learning a bunch of other things. Thanks.
Gabe Grant.
I think it's equally important to help prepare students for whatever goals they have in the future, whether it be tech school, college, military, through partnerships that we've formed over the past 4 or so years. The opportunity to do so was set up through the bond projects that Salina voters voted for in 2014. But through those projects, we've been able to expand our pathway opportunities for students with partnerships through Salina Area Tech, K-State Salina, Many students graduate from USD 305 high schools with a CNA, fire science certification, some sort of recognized industry credential that allows them to start working a full-time job a high-paying full-time job right out of school. Those opportunities are equally important to preparing kids that want to go to school and further their education in that way.
Thank you. Next question, it's time to begin with Holly Hennick. What are your thoughts about merit pay increases for teachers? Holly Hennick.
I just got asked this today. Absolutely, yes. I've tried to pull some of the district's financials and go through them and understand them, and thank God I have some CPA friends. But I think that if we want to be a top performing school district, we should probably be one of the higher paying school districts as well. Now, I know that money doesn't just fall out of the sky, so where's that going to come from, you know? And there's a lot that I have to educate myself on, and there's a lot that I just don't know about the school budgeting. But I am diligent in trying to get that to happen. Absolutely, they just push through something for paras because we are so short on that needed last minute help. But absolutely, I think that our teachers are underpaid.
Bonnie Schamberger.
Definitely, I think our teachers have a future of our children, our country, and they need to be paid more. The parents need to be paid more. I think there will be more for what they go through and what they do, and they need that financial help. It'd be an incentive, but it's definitely something that I'm going to need to look into more, and I will do that when I am voted in. Thank you.
Gabe Grant.
Do I think teachers are paid what they're worth? Do I think our staff members are paid what they're worth? No. That equation is a double-edged sword of merit pay increases versus making our starting pay an attractive wage for both an entry-level para or entry-level teacher, and attracting people to those career fields. I think, like we've talked about, we've made strides in some of those ways, working with legislators to increase funding for those sorts of opportunities is a great thing that we do as board members. It's not something that we can do on our own, but something that our community has to get behind and recognize that paying our teachers and faculty and staff what they're worth is worth it for our students. It's a demanding job, an emotional job in the way that they partner with what's going on in that student's home, meeting that student where they're at and helping them along in their learning journey, and we should pay them what they're worth.
Jim Fletcher.
Do I think teachers should make more money? Sure. Paras, most definitely. I think that the wage should reflect the quality that we want. When we're talking about just merit, basing that off of merit, I guess I'd have to have a little more information because I don't know what exactly you would measure. Being the parent of 4 kids, 2 of them teenagers right now, I try to be the best parent I can, but someday I don't know if I'm worth anything. And so I guess I'd want to understand what that merit is and make sure that it makes sense and that it doesn't become a demoralizing factor at the same time.
Final question, and I believe, Gabe, it's back to you to start. What's that? Bonnie? Okay. No, you're correct. You are correct. Bonnie Schamberger, the question for you and the rest of our candidates. We're going to ask you to look into your crystal ball. What do you see the biggest issues confronting USD 305 in the next year, in the next 4 years?
Right. Since I have been a teacher and education is so important to me and children's minds, I love to watch children learn. I love to watch them catch on to something that they've never known before. I love to watch them learn how to read. And there are a lot of the family. We have problems in our school systems because one thing, the family is deteriorating. When I was teaching before, 30 seconds left, like 1/4 of the class, their parents were divorced. Now, maybe 1/4 of the class, the parents are married. The kids go through a lot. I am thinking that we are going to have to be ready to help these kids through a lot of things because of the deterioration of the family. Just knowing how to respect one another and citizenship and take care of the property.
Gabe Grant.
I think it's a task that we already know. As we set a vision for the district in 2019 and 2020, we set that vision as Salina Public Schools is to transform Salina and the world. And that's incredibly lofty. Our goal to reach that is helping families, helping kids that realize what they want to do with their lives, helping families help themselves. I think Salina Public Schools should be an economic driver for our community as we look for those people that are looking to hire jobs. You should want to be in Salina because your kids go to Salina Public Schools. That embracing challenges, creating belonging, fostering pride, inspiring hope, that whole tagline is not just words. Those are goals that our community help us set based on their comments and what they wanted to see from Salina Public Schools. That, again, is a lofty goal, and it will take all of us to execute on it.
Jim Fletcher.
You know, the first thing I wrote down here was changing social norms. I feel like in the last 18 months, our social norms have just been all over. And honestly, we're trying to figure out as a community how to come together, how to work through that. I think our students are a little more resilient sometimes than we are as parents, though. But the ability to communicate well, the ability to communicate within the community, and then the teachers. I mean, a teacher shortage is out there everywhere. The biggest competitor right now with education when it comes to teachers is the private sector. I mean, it's pretty easy to say if we've got a private sector that's driving good, healthy jobs, we're a little more limited on the government sector, on the school board side with what you can pay, what benefits you can offer, those things. You don't necessarily have the flexibility that the private sector has. And some of our hardest teaching positions to fill are shop teachers or, construction science teachers, those things, because they can make more money other places.
Holly Hennick.
Thank you, Clark. I think the first initiative actually takes an entire community to do, but it's getting God back in school. I know that that's not something that 305 can actually do just due to separation of church and state, but I think if we make that well known in the community that's a big goal that we'll get a lot of drive with that. I think stopping division, we're so divided. Salina's so divided right now. Our school district's so divided. Our whole nation's so divided right now. If we can speak unity, I think that we will have happier teachers and we'll have better outcomes in the end. And I do agree with Bonnie with the family stress. These teachers aren't just teaching every day, they are teaching emotional control, they are teaching coping mechanisms, and we're not giving them the grace and the time to meet those students where they are, because we're busying their morning with reading books about how to include everybody and implement the implicit bias test. We need to just give our teachers a little bit of grace to meet our kids where they're at, because teaching is an art.
Now it's time for our 2-minute closing statements. All of our candidates will have up to 2 minutes. And Gabe Grant, you have up to 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Thanks, Clark, and thanks for moderating this evening. Thanks to the group for planning the forum tonight. It's been nice to be able to talk about these issues with you all, and I appreciate the other candidates up here with me for their willingness to run. I ran in 2017 to help bring positive change for USD 305. We're on the track for that. We have great plans in place that need executed on. Like I said before, Salina Public Schools should be the shining star of our community. It is most people's identity with how they see Salina. When I was at K-State, most people's first question when I said I'm from Salina was Mustang or Cougar. That's how we recognize people in their communities. No organization is perfect, and we can continue to make those changes that bring positive change to what our district does. That positive change trickles down not only to our students and the lives of them and their families, but also to our staff, as we can work with community members to find those places where that change needs to happen, what successes we are having, and that story that we can tell to show the community and those looking at Salina as a possibility for a future home, of why this is a great place to live and a great place to raise a family.
Jim Fletcher.
Thank you. Schools are the community that everybody can point back to some point in their life and identify with. In addition to teaching the basics of writing, arithmetic, reading, we have to make sure that we provide a good foundation for our students to go out and chase their dreams, chase their goals. We have to have schools where students feel dignified and they gain success. They gain the self-confidence to be successful in life. The schools of 2021 are much different than the schools of 30 years ago and vastly different than the schools of 100 years ago. I believe we have to support our teachers, we have to support our school administrators, and we have to ask questions to gain understanding. We have to advocate for liberty. We have to work together to be the best that we can be. We're preparing students for careers that don't exist yet, for challenges that we don't even know. It's important that we not only provide them with the academic knowledge to solve problems, but also the communication skills that will allow them to work together, the social emotional skills that will allow them to deal with adversity and difficult challenges. These are the things that will be required to keep our great nation moving forward. Again, my goal is that the students who graduate from USD 305 will have the same pride in being a 305 grad as I do 30 years from now. Thank you for your time, and I'd appreciate your vote.
Holly Hennick.
Thanks, Clark. Thank you, Grannies, for having such a wonderful event and allowing all four of us to come out here and discuss. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for coming as well and being more involved in your child's education and supporting your teachers. I'm Holly Hennick. I am a school board write-in. I am not on the ballot, so you have to write my name in if you choose. Again, I really think that we just need to support our teachers and advocate for our students and involve our parents. I think our board needs to get in motion at a legislative level to protect our teachers a little further. I think we need to get down to the bottom of what's going on in our schools, how we can support our teachers, what it is that's stressing them out. Some of the initiatives that we are putting on them as a board we think look shiny, look great, and it's a great idea for them to do, and it's doing nothing but stressing them out more on a lower level by taking away time from their children. And I think we really need to evaluate all of that. So again, thank you for coming. Thank you for having me. I'll be on the radio tomorrow. There's been some incidents go on where we've had some people come to our house, and I've had letters and a few other things happen. So just keep your eye out and stay safe. Thank you.
Before we go to Bonnie for the final closing statement, I'd like to once again ask that you make a donation before you leave. The jar is right by the door when you came in. I'd like to again thank Salina Media Connection, and once they get it edited and ready to go, it'll be up on youtube.com/Salina Media Connection. And now our final 2-minute closing statement, up to 2 minutes for Bonnie Schamberger.
I want to thank you all for coming and staying, for caring about our community and our children. I am running for the school board believing that I can make decisions that will impact the future of our children as well as our community. I hope to take an active part in the communication between teachers, principals, parents, as well as the community, that we work together to educate our children so that they have a future. I believe our city government, as well as our education system, is in a reforming process. Together as a community, the vision for Salina can be restored, and Salina can be a city of light set on a hill that cannot be hidden. Our children can be the salt of our community as well as our nation. After all, we live in Salina County, which means salt, and our main street is called Santa Fe, which means holy faith. It's by our faith in Jesus Christ that these things can happen. Our city has a destiny, as do our children. If elected, I will dedicate my time on the board to help protect and educate the lives of the children to be all they can be. After all, they are America's greatest resource. Thank you.
Now, please. We really appreciate you coming tonight. Please make a donation. We were going to have you move your chairs, but it's my understanding that that's being taken care of. Thank you and good night.